Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Jack.
And this week we are reviewing one humdinger of a film, don't you say, Jack?
Why, it's just the bee's knees.
Boy, howdy.
He was obviously my favorite character. Y'all can't see it, but I made my nickname for this particular recording room as Aggressively Virginian.
How about you hand me them sizzle platters?
You know, I have one of my best friends is from Virginia. We've had him on as a guest for Platoon. You remember Levi?
Yes.
Really cool guy. He's from Virginia Beach, Virginia, the winner of the most creative name for a town award. Get it? Because it's on
almost
Virginia.
As good as Pierre, South Dakota.
Shut the entire fuck up. But it's on the beach and it's in Virginia. Genius. You get exactly what you want on the tin. But anyways.
So, had you seen this film before?
No. I didn't even know it existed. When you said it was a Doolittle film, I could have sworn we had already watched this, but then I remembered that the latter half of that one movie we watched is about the Doolittle Raid.
I was halfway expecting you to be like, you know, when you said it was about Doolittle, I was really upset when there weren't any talking animals.
Well, okay, I should have made that joke, you're right. But what's the movie I'm thinking of that we've done?
Oh, Midway?
Midway, but yeah.
Oh, Pearl Harbor. There's lots of movies that have the Doolittle Raid as like as a part of it, but this is the first like dedicated Doolittle Raid film we've done.
It was ballsy, I'll give him that. They're just not the movie itself, the act, the operation Doolittle Raid, immediately bloodying the nose in their capital. That takes balls.
There's definitely like a shitload of luck that went with that. Like obviously them being discovered like a day early was not super helpful for them.
Oh no.
But apparently when the like Japanese fishermen saw them, they did actually radio the mainland.
Of course.
And the mainland received the message and they're like, the fuck are these guys high? Like,
did you get lost?
Like, we just destroyed their fucking fleet 3 months ago. The fuck are they talking about? So the mainland Japan didn't take them seriously. And then at the time that the raid occurred, there was a scheduled practice air raid drill going on in Tokyo. So, you know, we see these scenes where there's Japanese fighter planes, you know, flying around, but they never attack the B-25s. And that's because like that was actually a thing. And they didn't attack them because they're like, oh, this is just part of the drill. Like, so very lucky in that aspect.
Man, yeah. Some of the scenes that were in the plane where they're, well, as the title implies, 30 seconds over Tokyo or 30 seconds over Japan, whatever. Anyway, so, and there are some scenes where you can see out the side of the plane and you're like, there's no way that's Tokyo, right? Like, this is clearly aerial footage of LA for a part of this.
Well, Oakland to be precise.
Same thing.
I found it interesting because I was looking at like IMDb facts for this film. And, you know, in the scene when they're flying over air quotes Tokyo,
Yay.
They're passing like an oil refinery or whatever that's on fire. And they make a mention. They're like, oh, this crew must have hit it already. They did one heck of a job. Um, that was an actual like refinery fire that was happening. Like it was just happened to be in the middle of their shooting schedule, and they like looked at the horizon and saw a giant plume of smoke, and they're like, "Oh, we should take advantage of this."
Yeah. Oh, this is gold. Wait, who's to say they didn't start the fire?
We didn't start the
The
fire.
fire.
Um, what did you think of all the stunt flying in this?
Man, it was kind of stressful, that scene where he gets the letter that his wife is pregnant and he starts celebrating and just shows the plane weaving
Just
back and forth,
fucking, they're singing "Rockabye Baby" and they're fucking
literally
around
rocking
with
the
a
plane.
multi-million-dollar airplane or whatever the 1940s equivalent to a multi-million-dollar airplane is.
And the thing was, I think almost every single person in that aircraft was younger than us. So
Yeah,
our grandparents were probably just like us in a way.
it's interesting because if you think about, these are guys who would have been like pre-war military, joined the Army Air Corps before Pearl Harbor, because you know by the time Pearl Harbor happens, that the groups that they selected to do the Doolittle Raid, like contrary to what Pearl Harbor would have you believe, they didn't just pick a bunch of random people that were like, "Oh, you're the most experienced. We're going to teach you how to do this." No, like they're like, you happen to be a B-25 squadron stationed in this particular area. Congratulations, we're picking your squadron to do this.
Surprise.
Surprise! I mean, they still had the option to duck out if they didn't want to, but what are you, Yeller?
Yeah. What are you, a coward?
Um, but that would have meant that like these are a bunch of dudes who, you know, on the upper level would have been 30, but for the most part would have been guys who had just finished college or, you know, you know, have limited time in the military. They're probably like 23, 24, 25 ish. So you are correct. Like they in this realistically in this film, and the guys who actually are doing it were younger than us doing it.
Yeah. You know, solid movie, but I gotta say I'm a bigger fan of the latter half.
Were you not a fan of the love story?
No, no,
Okay.
but I just felt it kind of dragged in the first half. But then once they took off to actually do the bombing mission, it really took off. No, no pun intended.
I I've kind of shit on love stories a lot in the past. And this is one of those times that I actually appreciated it in the film. Um, that being said, I think it could have been done better, but I really liked the dynamic of, our main focus is Ted, who is the pilot of Ruptured Duck, and his wife. And granted, this movie is based off of his book. Um, and I think it plays very well, and I think it was a good decision at the time that they were doing this, because if you think about it, this came out in 44. So in 44, anybody that could be fighting was out fighting, and the home front was, young kids, women, and old men. Um, so including the aspect of, you know, here's the, Ted's wife who's pining over him and is, you know, very focused on like what his career is going to look like, what his life in the military looks like, I'm sure resonated with a lot of people at home when this movie came out. That being said, I thought his wife was a very flat character. Like, she, she was about as 1940s as it gets, where it's like, the ladies are out at the beach talking. They're like, oh, what are you going to do while they're gone? It's like, oh, I think I might get a job at the factory or something. And then she's like, well, I'm just going to be at home making a baby. And then, like, her only focus in this film is, I'm carrying Ted's baby. And also, I love you, Ted, more than it. Like, there's no other real feature to her other than the fact that she loves Ted.
Yeah. Oh, but she loves him, didn't you know?
How'd you get to be so cute? One thing,
she loves him so goddamn much.
It was kind of funny. So Miranda watched maybe like 2 minutes of this film, but the 2 minutes she saw was, she spends a lot of time in bed in this movie, Ted's wife. And she was sleeping and smiling and had perfect hair. And my wife was like, how the fuck does she have perfect hair while sleeping? Like, just perfect little victory curls and shit.
Victory curls.
But yeah, like, not once in this movie. It doesn't matter. Like, there's multiple times where, like, she's woken up in the middle of the night because Ted comes home late or has to leave early or whatever. Perfect fucking hair. Straight out the gate.
I mean, yeah. If you get out of bed with your hair messy, the communists win.
I don't think we were afraid of communists yet at this point, but...
Wait, wrong war. The British will win.
Nope, wrong war again.
Those goddamn Confederates will win.
That's right.
Damn
Johnny
Skippy.
Rad. So yeah, I like the presence of the love story in this film, and I think it definitely added something to it. I think just making her more rounded and less one-dimensional would have done quite a number for this film.
Yeah, but we gotta pad the time, I guess. Put in a love story to really tug at the heartstrings of those back home.
Speaking of the love story, I think one of my favorite parts of the interactions between Ted and his wife is after they do their New Year's Eve party. They get like a phone call at like 3 a.m. They're like, you need to come in and like be here in an hour or whatever. And he's like, man, I've got a headache. She's like, oh, had a bit much to drink. And I'm like, is this motherfucker about to go fly a goddamn bomber hungover? Which I totally believe probably happened, but I love how they just like nonchalantly like brush that under the rug. They're like, oh, he's just got a little headache.
Well, I mean, I can't think of a better excuse to fly a bomber than hungover.
Sounds like a good way to end up like
Actually,
up.
Wait. I do think of one thing better: flying it drunk.
Flying a plane drunk?
You would. Hey, the law says don't drink and drive. Didn't say shit about flying.
I don't even think there was an anti-drinking and driving campaign in the 40s.
See? And besides, it's a war. Fuck it.
Right.
Oh, what? Are you more of a torpedo juice guy?
Yes.
But speaking of torpedoes, I like that part where they talk about the submarine in Tokyo Bay. Like, they're freezing their asses off in bottom of Tokyo Bay. And they're just like scouting out points for them to bomb. Those Navy guys sure are tough as nails, or something along those lines.
I think that's something that hinders this film is the language. Like, I think this is like the most obnoxious use of the transatlantic accent.
It kind of is.
Like, boy, howdy. Like, it's just so much. But, like, it, again, kind of like with the love story, like, I'm sure it resonated with audiences back then, but today it just seems silly.
Yeah, it certainly dates this film. Well, even more so than, the Doolittle Raid itself and the war. And
I'm genuinely curious. Like, did anybody actually talk like that, or is this just
no,
like a popular media thing from the time?
I actually know the answer to this. It's not reflective of how people talked. It's how they were trained to speak, quote unquote, properly for movies.
So it's literally just a pop culture thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I don't deny some maybe sounded like that, but it was like the
Well,
accent to have on
it's
the
like when I
film.
see a TikTok and I see somebody be like, "No cap, bussin' for real," and I'm like, "There's no way people actually talk this way."
On
Except
God,
they
they do.
do.
On God, they do.
Oh, it just makes me want to throw punch people. And then my wife calls me an old fogey. Language changes, John.
Shut up, nerd. What do you know about that English major? You're not like a history savant like me or a criminal justice major. No, you just don't get it.
Next episode, you'll see me just speaking in old English, be like, nah, we went downhill a long time ago.
Hark, thou film est trash.
Oh. Did you, where the fuck was I going to go with this?
I don't know, you tell me.
Dude, it's been such a long fucking day. Probably not as long as for you. What's the deal with the whole fucking state library thing?
No comment other than all I can say is it changes day to day. We're taking it as a case by case thing. Can't really say much else about it.
But you're still employed.
For now, yeah.
Okay, I guess that's the most important thing at this juncture, but
Yeah, it's not a great day, but a day. I'm gonna go back for more tomorrow.
it's like when I posted on your Facebook, I was like, it's a hell of a way to celebrate National Library Week.
It is, isn't it? We thought we were out of the woods with the whole state legislature thing, but more the fool is we. But fucking A. It's just one of those things, ain't nothing you can do, but you can't do nothing.
Yeah. Have you considered going into seven hole toad? What the fuck was the game they called it?
What in the hell are you talking about?
When they were playing that poker game on the carrier, the
Oh
Navy
yeah,
guys.
I don't remember what it was called, but
The
it was
dude called it like seven toad whatever. But it was just 7-card stud.
I have almost the correct amount of toes for that.
You should become a professional poker player just in case.
Yeah. 9 rounding up, I'd suppose it's 9. It's like 8.5, but 9-toed jack. Jacky 9 toes.
So what was your favorite part of this film?
I'd have to say the part when they were in China and just like giving the Japanese the slip at every turn, hot on their tails. It was almost like a different genre of movie almost. Like it felt radically different than the other parts.
Almost like heist like.
Yeah, it almost had heist-like qualities to it. Like one step behind the big score, but one step ahead of the law. And like you're
So maybe I might be alone in this observation, but what did you think of the portrayal of Chinese in this film.
I mean, well, I'm not Chinese, so I wouldn't know if it was terribly offensive.
Same, but I found myself thinking about when we watched Flying Tigers with John Wayne and how badly the Chinese were like turned into caricatures in that film. And compared to that film, which I know is not a very high bar, and compared to like almost any other film from this time period, it seemed about as respectful as Hollywood was going to get, which was very shocking to me.
Yeah. I think they portrayed them in a positive light, always helpful to the Americans, willing to risk aiding them, because the Japanese wouldn't be the type to just slap them on the wrist and say, "Oh, that'll learn you." No, they would burn and kill you and burn your village.
Well, I think they killed like 10 or 20,000 Chinese people because of the Doolittle Raid.
Yeah, and who and Doolittle Raid, I'm gonna willing to guess, was just more another excuse for them to kill more.
Oh, absolutely. Also, Japanese, not real big fan of the Doolittle Raiders. Obviously, some of them were captured and were summarily executed. But here's a little fun fact of the day that's not really that fun. So the Japanese, when they captured these guys, they executed them and then they cremated them and put them in urns, which I find slightly interesting that they would go about keeping the remains, but they did. But then they intentionally mislabeled the urns so that they were like lost for a super long period of time, and then it's like a decade or two ago that it was like rectified.
They mislabeled the urns.
Yeah, I don't know if it sounds like it was a purposeful slight, but like
Probably was.
it's been so long that who's to say. But my point remains that I find it kind of interesting that they would bother to keep those particular remains when they were stacking bodies left and right everywhere else in the world.
Anger, pettiness. It's war after all.
Yeah.
Anger and pettiness go with war as well as something goes with something else.
So, as an amputee, how did the amputation scene hit you?
Man, I didn't have a bunch of beautiful Chinese nurses holding me down for shit. I didn't get to thug it out. No, they just knocked me out. I'm a wuss. Here I was screaming about blood and pain and whatnot, and this guy just took it like a man. But they gave him that shot directly into the spine.
You're not going to feel it, but you're going to be awake.
Jesus, yeah.
His extreme focus on whether or not his wife would continue to love him after losing a leg was kind of an interesting thought train to follow through this film. And it maybe it just speaks to how society was at the time, where being like an amputee was looked down upon, or like because today, like if you're an amputee, like whoop-de fucking do, here's your prosthetic. But
this was before the Americans with Disabilities Act.
yeah,
And my interpretation of that was he sees it as a dereliction of duty, because there's no way they're letting him up in the air again with just one leg. And this is a guy who seems devoted to the cause and his country. And then he just feels like a lack of purpose, like what's he going to do? And then the general offers him, get back to work. What he's doing, I'm not entirely certain. And maybe they'll just put him on the desk for the rest of the war.
More than likely. But I mean, losing your leg, I'm like, he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, because to be fair, like getting a medical discharge seems like a normal place of action for that kind of wound. But also, if you're buddies with Jimmy Doolittle, like I'm sure he can find you a desk job wherever.
Yeah, old James Doolittle. And
I want a biopic of Jimmy Doolittle.
Who would play him?
That's a really hard question these days.
Nicolas Cage?
Yes.
I knew
Nicolas
you'd
Cage.
accept that.
Yep. Automatically accept. Michael Ironside.
Michael Ironside.
Yes.
Who else am I thinking of?
I thought Aaron Eckhart was an interesting choice for Doolittle in the movie Midway.
What about James Marsden?
I don't know who that is.
You'd recognize him if you saw him.
James Marsden.
Yep.
His film accolades include Enchanted, 27 Dresses, and Sonic the Hedgehog.
That very one.
He doesn't strike me as Jimmy Doolittle.
What? I mean, I thought he's all right.
No, like he's a good looking. Oh, he's fucking Cyclops. That okay.
He's fucking Cyclops.
Yes, from the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
No, he is a good looking dude. I don't think though he really captures Jimmy Doolittle's vibe.
Okay. I'm not gonna die on this hill. Lightly
But Jimmy Doolittle has the kind of life that can be put into like the Unbroken movie format, like young boy, and then he becomes like a professional racer, and then he goes into the military, and then all that good stuff. Like, dude had a very impressive life.
What do you do after the war?
Kept flying airplanes, probably. Let me look. Became vice president of Shell Oil.
Oh. Damn.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
Jesus.
fuck.
He was a flying instructor during the First World War. Interwar, he was like a racing pilot. What else has he done? Oh, I forgot about this. That is actually impressive. He did the first instrument-only flight.
What's that mean?
So he fucking basically what he did was he got into an airplane and then completely blacked out the cockpit, so all he could see was his instruments.
Oh, I've heard about that test, actually. That's wild.
I don't care how good of a aviator you are. I don't know if I was in his shoes, I don't think I would trust in my own ability to do that.
Oh, no. I would fucking die.
And this is not the time period where people really walk away from airplane crashes.
Oh no, as we see in this movie, they limp away.
I
Or
think,
swim away, I guess.
you know, him being a super impressive aviator, he, for being a Doolittle Raid film, he has a very minor part in the film. Like, granted, I get that Ted is our main character, but we see him like 3 or 4 times pre-raid, and then he visits Ted in the hospital. And I guess I was just, I want to, like I said, I want to do a little Raid biopic type situation.
Yeah, Hollywood, get the fuck on it.
There's a lot of good Doolittle Raid material to be made into a movie. Like, did you hear about like the plane that landed in Russia?
I don't think I did.
So there was one plane bombed Japan, and then they bypassed China and landed in Russia. And because the Russians didn't want to go to war with Japan at that time because were a little busy, they air quotes took them as prisoners of war, and then they air quote escaped.
Escaped.
Like, that could be its own fucking movie. It's like starting off with the Doolittle Raid and then, pseudo prison escape type film.
So, are you or aren't you down with Ryan Gosling playing Doolittle in the upcoming biopic?
Ryan Gosling.
You heard me.
You want Ken?
All right, let's hear your idea then.
He's just Ken.
So, no Michael Cera either.
No, Michael Cera cannot play fucking Jimmy Doolittle.
Well, you said
Suppose
yes.
next you're going to say Jesse Eisenberg.
It was an option. Ah, yes, the furious typing.
It is furious.
Oh, I've did it now, chat.
Hayden Christensen.
Oh, fuck. I bombed them. I bombed them all. And not just
the men, but the women.
That's what we sent you to do, yes.
I literally... So what I did... I just typed in celebrities with a round face, which has not been helpful. But the idea of this is hilarious because I'm going down this list. Imagine Seth Rogen as Jimmy Doolittle.
They're just hotboxing the plane as they fly in. Doolittle is always, as he always wanted to be portrayed.
Take that, Japan.
As a stoner. Yeah, just a stoner comedy instead of his life story.
I think I know who I would have. Probably, I think Henry Cavill would be a good candidate, I think.
Yeah, he's in everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm out of actor ideas for now, at least.
Casper Van Dien.
You mean like the friendly ghost?
No, as in like Super Troopers. Rico.
Oh, him.
Fun fact, he's going to be in Colorado Springs in August.
You apes want to live forever?
Not really.
No, I want to die.
Tell my wife I said hello. My favorite part of this film is probably like the most iconic thing to occur from the Doolittle Raid, which is the carrier takeoff. I thought the carrier takeoff scene in this film was amazing. And I also learned that the studio that made this film actually built a soundstage big enough to house 4 B-25s to film it, which is truly impressive to me.
It is.
But I really like the carrier takeoff scene. It was very stressful, when Ted's
As it
airplane
should be.
wouldn't start.
As it should be.
It drives, because they mentioned, they're like, oh yeah, the Navy has orders to push fucking airplanes over the side if they don't start up, which that's gotta be fucking nerve-wracking. But also, they mentioned, like, if anybody wants to back out, we still got a spare crew here. And I was reading a book about the Doolittle Raid, and there were guys on that spare crew who were going to pretty much every single other person who was assigned to the mission and, like, bribing them and promising the moon. They're like, I'll give you a year's pay to let me take your spot. This kind of, and nobody gave up their spot to them.
Just the patriotism and dedication at that time.
Well, also, like, I think there should be, like, a psychology study done with the idea of, like, anybody who wants to turn back, do so now. Because, like, when we see this in a movie, obviously it's a part of the movie. Like, how brave are these guys? Like, nobody ever is like, yeah, peace the fuck out. But I think it would make for an interesting psychology study to be like, to put somebody in a theoretical life or death situation or life or death choice and just be like, all you gotta do is cross the line and you're good. But you have to do so in front of everybody.
Yeah. So kind of a public shame kind of thing, pressuring.
Yeah, because, like, we have the same thing happen in, like, the Alamo, where Travis, takes his sword and draws a line in the sand. Anybody? And nobody does. We see it in the movie Taps, where they, like, offer and they're like, anybody want to give up? And, nobody does. And then, like, the next day, he's like, you had 11 deserters.
11.
And then they have the very powerful, like, half of the students, quit when given the opportunity the second time around that they're asked.
We did kind of see an opposite example where somebody refused the call, but it was parodied in Team America. If you don't think you're up for the job, there's the door. Okay, thanks,
Okay.
and walks out.
Ha!
Of course, he agrees to do it anyway, but,
What was your least favorite aspect of this film?
You mean other than the love story?
Yes, besides the love story.
The love story.
Okay.
But I said earlier in the podcast, it felt like the first act dragged a bit.
This is a long movie, especially for a movie about the Doolittle Raid, and it's literally 30 seconds over Tokyo. Like, I liked that their escape and shenanigans through China took up a good chunk of the film, but this was kind of a long film for the story they were telling.
Yeah. It was 2 hours long. I knocked that out after work.
Do you think you're a better man for watching this now?
I feel heroic. Patriotic.
I remember watching this movie with my grandfather.
Oh, yeah?
But the only part of it I remember watching with my grandfather is when they're, like, hiking through the mountains of China, and then, like, the boat comes by and they all duck, and I just remember as a kid being like, why? You're in a mountain. They can't hurt you. But young, dumb John.
Young and dumb John.
Really, it was impressive to me that they crashed that fucking airplane and the dude broke both his fucking arms and still swam his ass to safety. Like, that is a fucking next level manly man right there.
Imagine his, like, leg muscles. Holy shit.
Or Sepsis McGee also swimming his ass to safety.
Yeah, the old Sepsis Sam. He's a bit more asymmetrical than last his wife saw him, but, you know, he's fine. Oh my god, that one scene where that Chinese peasant, like, comes to give them presents and tell them info, and he hands him a pair of shoes, looks down, and realizes a mistake.
Just, like, buries his hand in his face. Like, it's almost like a 3-year-old about to, like,
Start bawling.
Having a meltdown, and he's like, no, it's okay, it's okay.
I'll just use one. Also, what was he wearing before? It was, like, roughly tied together sandals using some uncomfortable looking grass of some sort.
Probably a wicker type situation.
Man, I don't. That would be hell on my feet. I can just imagine the blisters.
Well, they had those little chariot things that they were carrying them around, so I'm not sure it really mattered.
I almost called them rickshaws, but that's not what they are. I think they're called litters.
Yeah, basically. But what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I got a bottle of wine with me, but it tasted like battery acid. So I switched
As
to
all
my.
good wine does.
It's menage. It was menage a trois, but right now I have this weird gin called McQueen and the Violet Fog, ultraviolet edition. It's hibiscus berry flavored gin, and it tastes amazing.
You said it's hibiscus gin?
Hibiscus, yeah. Hibiscus berry flavored gin.
It's a very interesting combo.
I love fruity shit.
I know you do.
Ha 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 ha. Fuck you. Go ahead.
Because it's still Lent, am drinking a 1940s classic, which is Coca-Cola. Not a sponsor of the show, but they could be.
But perhaps.
But it's Coca-Cola from a glass bottle, so.
Buying Pepsi Cola? How could you Nazi?
You look like you drink Fanta.
Ooh, them's fighting words.
I do like grape Fanta from time to time.
It's all right. It's one of the few times that I'll pick something orange flavored over grape flavored because I like their orange drink better than their grape drink.
I wonder why that one guy didn't try smuggling fucking cases of fucking Coca-Cola onto his airplane. It's like, oh, I'm going to bring a record player and 60 cartons of cigarettes to sell to the Chinese people. But no, they wouldn't like Coca-Cola. That's dumb.
I don't know. A carton of cigarettes, I'm sure, would get you really far. In fact, that campaign we're a part of, I was reading the rule book, and for under interrogation, it said locals will most likely or more likely to open up if you give them cigarettes. Almost everybody would take a cigarette.
And not just the men, but the women and the children, too.
Right.
I think it's about time we rate this film.
Right. I got to look up the Rotten Tomatoes for it.
But before we do that, what do you think a good rating for this film would be?
Amputation?
Amputations?
No.
1 to 5 letters
wait.
telling you your wife's pregnant.
3 or no, like 5 unused left shoes out of 5.
1 to 5 unused left shoes.
Yep.
Okay.
Get it because you lost that leg
Yeah.
and you
Yes,
can't.
I get it,
Okay,
Jack.
just thought I'd make sure.
What do you give this?
Hold on. 4.2 out of 5. 4.2 out of 5 unused, and one of them is worn to shit.
Why the 0.2?
It didn't feel right giving this a 4. I feel like I should give it more credit where credit's due, because this movie was I'm sure at the time it was a fucking bombshell.
It was a very popular film, and it actually went on to win like 1 or 2 Oscars. I know at least for like special effects, it won an Oscar. It was a very popular film. So I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie, but also, you know, I think it's very hard for a 1940s film to get that 5 shoe rating. I'm comfortable with a solid 4, just because, like I said earlier, I appreciated the addition of the love story in this film where I don't normally care for it, but the female character was kind of flat for me. But like, it's awesome to have a Doolittle film. Like, the carrier scene was amazing. Like, the bombing scene was, just the right amount of tense, and like the characters felt relatable. So for me, it's a solid 4 left shoe rating.
Okay, now let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says. The tomometer, this is a 100%,
Hmm.
and on the popcorn meter, it's 75%.
Interesting.
Really interesting.
I wonder what led the critics to 100% rating, but maybe
Probably the
they're
time.
focusing maybe they're focusing more on the impact of like contextualizing it to its time frame. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Because this improved morale significantly, I'm sure. And we addressed earlier that it was a bombshell in its time, in a good way. Usually the words bomb don't go good with movies, but what I'm saying is like
Unless you're bombing
reaction.
Japan, hey.
Fuck you. But yeah, I gotta disagree with the popcorn meter on this. I gotta give this like an 85%, I'd say.
All right.
Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, that has been 30 seconds over Tokyo.
You're damn right it was. We managed to stretch 30 seconds into about 50 minutes.
Yep.
This was a really quick film. Can't believe it was literally only 30 seconds long.
It's a hell of a short story.
I know, right? So it was dense. It was so dense. All that compacted into 30 seconds.
I think we should do another Doolittle film sometime. You know what? This film deserves credit because it is way better than the third of a movie that Pearl Harbor was. This
Yeah,
this movie had a better love story than Pearl Harbor.
easily. Although that's not really hard. I don't even remember the fucking love story in Pearl Harbor.
Rafe, I'm pregnant. The entire time I was in those waters, the only thing that kept me warm was the thought of you.
I think World War II just started. Fuck you. Fuck you, Michael Bay.
Pearl Harbor, a Michael Bay film.
God.
Well, do you have anything else?
I do not. Other than is now a good time to talk about the campaign.
Do you want to chat about it, like bring it up to our listeners, or just talk about it?
Like, just bring it up to our listener to be on the
Well,
lookout for. No release date.
have at it.
So I've decided to step into the DM chair for the first time in a couple years, and I'm DMing a game of Patrol by Erica Chappell. It's a tabletop RPG that takes place in the Vietnam War. It's a spiritual successor to 1982's Recon, and I'm told by many board game geeks that it's an improvement in every single way. So that'll be exciting. And I have DP here. He's our radio man for the squad. And you'll be joined by Steiner. I think he's going to be playing a marksman. Mitch is going to be the point man. And I'll buy him a beer if he lasts longer than 2 sessions. Isaac the machine gunner. Fun fact about him, he was actually in the Marine Corps.
Did Reed ever get back to you?
He did, actually, and I got in touch with him. He's going to be playing Naval Corpsman Medic.
Seems like we got a pretty solid group together then.
And my buddy Dalton is playing an Arvin Interpreter, the intel officer, or a intel officer.
So yes, listeners, we're going to be doing a tabletop game, and the plan is to record it and release it, probably as its own little kind of one-off series. But
and who knows? Maybe they'll win the Hearts and Minds campaign.
I'm going to commit war crimes.
Yeah. You might not be alone in doing that, given who I know in the squad.
We're probably going to go with the chaotic side of things.
Yes, embrace the darkness.
The voices are telling me to drop napalm.
Cowabunga, dudes.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. These stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those good places at Armchair Commanders. Until next time, I've been John.
And I'm Jack.
And you keep those sizzle platters spinning.
Bye.